what it do, everybody, man? What's happening? And welcome to another edition of SWAC Talk. Show we cover the SWAC inside and out. I am your tour guide around the SWAC, C. Wells, coming at you. We're gonna break down this Week 11 action, but before we do all of that, as usual, the socials are scrolling on the screen down below. Um, like them, follow them, whatever the case may be. If you like to support the show, you can hit the cash app down also on the screen down below. $ Swag Talk. If you want to drop a little bit in the donation plate, be much appreciated. Um, um, if you haven't subscribed already to the channel, why don't you go ahead and do so? Like videos, share them, and hit the notification bell to be alerted to whatever I drop, because I probably will be dropping a couple videos here and there extra during the next couple weeks, so you don't miss out on those. Um, and feel free to comment, on your thoughts on Week 11, whatever else may be on your mind. Feel free to hit the comments. Excuse me, that's my cat Nala. She always try to get in the show, but you can comment and just enjoy yourself, man. So a couple of announcements. Well, not really announcements, but one, I guess you could say. We'll be covering basketball once the season is over. We're gonna cover only in swag play. So we'll take a couple of weeks to recap the rest of the season and then jump into swag play and cover basketball. I'm gonna try to do men's and women's as best as I can. So I'm gonna show basketball a little bit of love since this is swag talk. I'm gonna talk about the swag. Um, Also, salute and shout out to Jackson State for clinching the East Division last night. This is a team that everybody had, different expectations, different ideas, whatever about this team. But I was a guy that I was a doubter early. I needed to see it myself, and I saw this team in person last night, and I think they're a very good team. I like the attitude that they play with, man. They play for each other. They support each other. Yes, they talk trash. Yes, they celebrate. Yes, they get a little chippy. But when you can back it up, man, I don't care. It's one of those things that I enjoy to see, and I thought they played a really good game, which we'll talk about in a minute. Um, the only other thing I do want to touch on is I'm gonna get this out of the way right now. That incident at the end of the game, man, there's no place for that in football. Um, I saw some video. Okay, JSU was celebrating, with their flag, in the middle field, whatever. Um, you don't need to get involved with that, man. Obviously, you protect your field. That's one thing, but there's no need to fight, man. Any fight that you needed to do, you should have did it in between the lines during the game. You did not, you only scored 3 points in the second half of your Southern. If you score a touchdown or two, you probably win this game. That's where your energy should have went to, man. Whatever, this team just beat you and broke an 8-game losing streak. So yes, they hype. They just won a division championship. Yes, they hype. Yeah, they cocky, man. Yeah, they try to come out there and do what they did, but there's no need for that because now the SWAC is investigating this incident. If they determine somebody threw punches, then you can miss a game. And there's still, even though Jackson State has won the division, the Alcorn game next week is still a big game. They don't need any guys that miss that game because of some bullshit after the end of this game. And Southern, even though your season is basically over, you still at the Bayou Classic. You don't need guys missing after missing the game after this kind of bullshit that took place. Um, I said it time and time again, man. This team of Southern is just not disciplined, man. This is a reflection to me on the coaches. You have to have a better handle on your team. You got guys throwing their equipment on the field as they leave the field. You have to run this program better, and obviously this shows that there will be a change. But that doesn't take anything away from JSU, man. Those guys play well. And for me, man, it was an honor to see Coach Prime in person, man. I know that sounds, fanboyish or whatever, but man, that's like my all-time great Seminole Cowboy. So yes, man, I enjoy watching that. I would have loved to see my team beat them, but see him sitting over there in that chair, man, it was a different feeling. So I just really was enamored in that. So I'm sorry that I kind of stand out a little bit on that. But anyway, back to the script, man. Let's go ahead and talk about this game. This game really was a game that turned out honestly better for a good portion of this game, better than I even anticipated. I thought Southern played a very good game early. Jackson State defense did a tremendous job of adjusting to what Southern was doing and starting to slow them down. Jackson State run game is still not good, but man, that passing game is tremendous. Man, Shador handles pressure well. He runs, man. Like Scotty says, bro, he's like the slowest, slippery guy ever. He doesn't look like he's moving fast, but he's running 20 yards downfield, and guys can't get him. So he escaped a lot of pressure. He made some big plays late to Weidman, Malachi Weidman. We've said it time and time again the last few weeks, the kid's going to be special. He made some big plays. The defense, they did what they had to do. And Southern defense played fairly well for about 3 quarters. They just did not. And Southern's offense needs to move the ball and score to keep them in this game. Their Southern defense is stout enough to you know, play a second half where you're not really moving the football and you getting back on the field so quick. Because this defense tends to give up a lot of big plays, so you knew it was coming at some point. And it came in the fourth quarter when Jackson State scored 14 points to erase a 17-7 lead and win this game. So, like I said, Southern had a 10-point lead through 3 quarters. As a fan, me, a skeptical fan coming into this game, you can't really ask for much more than that. But you would love to see this game be wrapped up a little bit better. There's still some issues. I don't, I'm not gonna get into all of that. With Skelton and everything, man, I don't really know what's going on with that. But I feel like obviously he should have played more. I don't know if he's injured or what, so I'm not gonna really comment on that. But it just needs to change. But that is what it is. So let's look at this game real quick, man. Let's talk about the statistics and everything. Like I said, it was a very exciting game. It was cold as hell, but the atmosphere was great, man. The stadium was packed. Both fan bases represented. It was a typical Jackson Southern game, man. It was hard hitting. It was intense. It was a lot of trash talking. The fans were talking in the stands. Man, I would get my talk on. It was just fun. It was just a lot of fun. I wish it was a warmer weather game, but that's the only thing really that changed that wish I could have changed besides the outcome as a Southern fan. But as a SWAC football fan, this was a great game. And this is what you want. Looking at the stats, Jackson State had 18 first downs on the night. Southern had 16. Southern ran for 105 yards on the night. Jackson State ran for 51. That's the typical effort. Their running game is just not really there, but they don't really need it, honestly. Passing 260 for Jackson State, 24 of 31, 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Southern 205 passing, 18 of 30, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Total offense 311 for Jackson State, 310 for Southern, 5.9 yards per play for Jackson State, 4.5 for Southern. Southern had 69 plays and Jackson State 53. This game was pretty even. Like I said, it was a 55-yard difference in passing towards Jackson State, and it was about a 54-yard swing in yardage for Southern in running. So this game was pretty even, honestly. You really can't ask for a lot more in this game other than a couple extended drives for Southern could have changed the outcome, but Jackson State doesn't need long to move the ball. They don't need long to score. So you have to possess the ball and you have to score against them. So I thought Southern had some successful drives, but you can't have some successful drives against this defense. You need a lot of them. Let's see. Jackson State one fumble and they lost to Southern fumble twice and didn't lose them. Both teams had 7 penalties for 54 yards for JSU, 56 for Southern. Again, still pretty even. 34 yards per punt for Jackson State, Southern 33 yards per punt. Southern punted 7 times, Jackson 4. Time of possession, Jackson State 26 minutes and 26 seconds, Southern 33 minutes and 17 seconds. Jackson State was 3 of 8 on third down. Now, Southern's a really porous third down defense, so they did a really good job of holding Jackson State below 50% on third downs. But Southern was 6 of 18. 0 for 1 on fourth down for Jackson State, 2 of 4 for Southern, 2 for 3 in the red zone for Jackson State, 1 for 2 for Southern in the red zone. A big play that I didn't talk about was right before the half. Southern had a 4th and goal from the one that went for Jackson State, got the stop. That could have been the difference in this game, possible. But that doesn't win the game for Southern. But that could have extended the lead to 24 to 24-7 going into the half. But that was a big stop by the JSU defense. Jackson State had 2 sacks on the night. Southern had 3. I thought Southern did a good job with the deep Jackson State pass rush. They did get some pressure, and they had like I said, they had a couple of big sacks, but Southern did a good job with that. Um, Jackson State honestly did a pretty good job with protecting Shedeur as well. He was under pressure a bit, but Southern got to him 3 times, not like they normally have been getting him lit up by defenses. So, like I said, this was an even game, man. You can't really ask for much more than that, other than if you're a Southern fan asking for the dub. But other than that, you can't ask for much more than this. Shedeur Sanders, 24-31, 260, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 3 sacks. Bubba McDaniel was 6 of 24, 176 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and 2 sacks. Skelton was 2 of 6 for 29 yards. Shedeur was the leading rusher for Jackson State with 11 carries for 38 yards. J.D. Martin, 4 carries for 8 yards. Peyton Pickett, 6 carries for 6 yards. Gerard Sims led Southern with 25 carries for 98 yards. Devon Ben, 4 carries for 20 yards. Keith Corbin led Jackson State with 8 catches for 92 yards. Malachi Wideman, 4 catches, 81 yards, and 2 touchdowns. 2 big touchdowns late. Trevante Rucker, 2 catches, 41 yards. Ethan Howard led Southern with 5 catches for 58 yards. Marquise McClain, 3 catches, 55 yards, and Gregory Perkins, 1 catch for 32 yards. Keontae Hampton led Jackson State with 11 tackles. Antoine Owens with 8. John Huggins with 7. James Houston with 7. Aubrey Miller with 7. Cameron Stillman Craig with 5 tackles for loss. Owens 2.5. Houston 2. Miller 1.5. Davis 1, and Hampton 1. And Houston had 2 sacks on the night. Interception was by Shiloh at the end of the game to seal that game for for Jackson State. Southern was led by Chase Foster with 8 tackles, Ray Anderson with 6, Tyron Nash with 4, Brian Jordan with 3, Jacoby Papillon with 3, Jordan Lewis with 3, tackles for loss, Jordan Lewis with 2, Ray Anderson 1.5, Nash 1.5, Johnson 1.5, Papillon and Peterson each had 1 half tackle for loss with Davin Cotton. Sacks were by Lewis, Nash, and Johnson. Interception was by Glenn Brown. Forced fumble was by Ray Anderson. Fumble recovery was by Tyron Nash. Not a lot other to put on this to tie it up neatly, but this was a really good game, man. This was like, we talked about, this game can be sneakily good. It's an intense rivalry, and it lived up to the billing. Jackson State, East Division champs, they await. Most likely it's going to be Prairie View, but that was Prairie View's chance to clinch was delayed another 2 weeks. Well, I guess you could another week, because if Jackson beats Alcorn, then Prairie View takes the West. But if not, then they have to wait a week, 2 weeks to clinch against Valley. So that leads us to this game. Prairie View dropped a tough game to Jackson State, 31-29. They lost this game on a fumble at the end of the game. Jaden Stewart ran for 2 yards and fumbled at the Alcorn 14. They were driving and they were in scoring position, and they could have got a field goal and won this game. They tried to run the ball and get some more yardage, and they fumbled. And that was it. So this was Alcorn jumped out to a nice lead in this game, and they actually ended up holding on against Prairie View. Alcorn got the scoring started, and they led 24-9 at the half. Prairie View scored first, and then Alcorn was able to score the next 24 points and Prairie View got Alcorn scored first. Prairie View scored first. Alcorn got a touchdown to make the score 7-6. All Prairie View scored and made it 7-9, and then Alcorn scored the next 17 points to go into the half, up 24-9. Then Alcorn got a touchdown from Felix Harper from 10 yards out to make the score 31-9 with about 4 minutes and with about 10 minutes and 27 seconds to go in the third quarter. Alcorn was leading 31-9. And Prairie View got some nice scoring at the end. They got Mullins caught a 30-yard pass from pass, and Ahmad Antoine a 3-yard rush, and then with 7 minutes and 7 seconds to go in the game, Spiller caught a 70-yard pass from Juwan Pass, and Prairie View went for 2 and didn't get it. So that was the difference in this game, that 2-point conversion that they did not get. They missed the extra point early in this game as well. So 2 failed conversions is probably the difference in this game between a win and a loss. Obviously, there's other things that could take place, but when you just look at the scoring, that's the difference right there. Looking at the box score, Prairie View 499 yards of offense, Alcorn 383, 157 yards rushing for Prairie View, Alcorn 120. 1 touchdown for Prairie View, 2 for Alcorn. Passing 342 for Prairie View, 263 for Alcorn. Prairie View 25 of 36 with 3 touchdowns. Alcorn 263 passing, 18 of 28 and 2 touchdowns. First downs 25 for Prairie View, 18 for Alcorn. 2 or 3 in the red zone for Prairie View, 4 for 4 for Alcorn. Third downs, Prairie View was 7 of 15, Alcorn 7 of 14. Prairie View 2 or 3 in the red zone. 2 or 3 on fourth down. Alcorn 1 or 2. Prairie View 2 penalties for 30 yards. Alcorn 5 penalties for 45 yards. Prairie View fumbled twice and lost both. So that's another issue that they could have had. Alcorn actually got points off of one turnover by Alcorn, and this was a game that I really think Alcorn played well early and Prairie View played well late. I was wondering, how Prairie View would handle having the target on their back, knowing that this is a game that could be wrapped up. A lot of people, myself included, didn't give Alcorn a lot of a chance, especially coming off of the Bethune-Cookman loss. But I think Coach McNair really got them boys ready, and they came out to play early, and they held on late. Juwan passed 25 of 36 for Prairie View, 342, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Jaden Stewart led Prairie View with 7 carries for 42 yards. That's receiving. Stewart, 7 catches, 42 yards. Spiller, 5 catches, 153 yards and 2 touchdowns. Howard, 3 catches, 62 yards. Mullins, 2 catches for 31 yards. Stewart led Prairie View rushing with 16 carries for 70 yards. Ahmad Antoine, 7 carries, 49 yards and a touchdown. Brooks, 7 carries, 26 yards. Defensively, Trayshawn Smith led the team with 10 tackles. Turner, 8. Reese, 8. Cheatham, 6. Dumas, 5. James, 5. Sacks were by James with 1, and Evans with a half a sack, and Powell also with a half a sack. Tackle for loss, Turner, Reese, Cheatham, James, each had a tackle for loss apiece. Prairie View ended up with 6 tackles for loss on the night. Alcorn was led in passing by Felix Harper with 18 of 28, 263, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Receiving LaCharles Pringle, 4 catches, 119 yards and a touchdown. Stafford Anderson, 4 catches, 31 yards. CJ Bowler, 3 catches, 30 yards. Akeem McNair, 2 catches, 26 yards. Griffin, 2 catches, 18 yards and a touchdown. Anderson led Alcorn in rushing with 15 carries for 60 yards and a touchdown. Nico Duffy, 12 carries, 34 yards. And Felix Harper, 7 carries for 19 yards and a touchdown. Haran led Alcorn with 12 tackles. Taylor, 9. Cherilus 9, Travis 6, Dawson 5, Kinsler 5, and McGee with 5, Martin with 4. Sacks, Martin had a sack, and Wren had a sack for Alcorn. Tackles for loss, Alcorn had 5. One by Wren, one by Martin, 1.5 by McGee, one by Dawson, and half a tackle for loss from Haran. And like I said, no interceptions for either team. So this was honestly a game that I'm gonna go back and rewatch. Watch because I didn't get to see it. It seemed like a very entertaining game. I thought Alcorn was gonna walk away with this once the game got going, but Prairie View fought back in it, but they came up short. So Prairie View's chance to clinch the West is delayed. Like I said previously, Alcorn and Jackson play on Saturday. If Alcorn wins that game, and that if Alcorn wins that game, that means Prairie View can't clinch the division until the next Saturday when they play Valley. And if they beat Valley, then they win the division. If some kind of way Valley wins and Alcorn wins, then Alcorn will win the division with a tiebreaker, which either way it goes, unless Alcorn beats Jackson State is going to host the SWAC championship since there are no more undefeated West teams. So this is still a lot on the line. Alcorn still has a lot to play for. Jackson's going to still be hyped because they want to beat them and they want to finish their SWAC season undefeated. Prairie View, they step out of conference this week coming up to play Texas A&M. I hate these kind of games late in the year like that. I talked about this with Pine Bluff. It's the same thing. I hate it, man. So, it is what it is, but that's, not a good game to have right now to break your momentum, especially coming off of a tough conference loss. But we're going to move on to our next game, which was a game that I thought could be a shootout, and it turned out to be even more of a shootout than I thought, and that's Alabama A&M against Texas Southern. The Bulldogs take a 52-49 victory over the Tigers. This was almost a low-scoring basketball game, and it was exactly what you expected. Texas Southern actually scored first to take a 7-0 lead. A&M got a field goal to make it 7-3. Ladarius Owens, a 53-yard touchdown run to put Texas Southern up 14-3. Garrett Quarles, a 1-yard run to make it 14-10. Derek Morton, 38-yard pass from Andrew Body to make the score 21-10. Odu Hilaire caught a 17-yard pass from Glass to make the score 21-17. Hilaire got his second touchdown of the night to start the third quarter to make the score 24-21. Jonathan Giles caught a 44-yard pass from Andrew Body to make the score 28-24. Dominic Franklin extended the lead for TSU to make the score 35-24. Ibrahim, 81-yard pass from Glass to make the score 31-35. Andrew Body, a 15-yard run, 42-38. King Blanton, 22-yard pass from Andrew Body, 49-38. And then A&M scored the last 14 points. Ibrahim, 22-yard pass from Glass. Bryson Clark, 1-yard pass from Glass to make the final margin 52-49. That score came with 49 seconds to go, so that was basically the game-winning touchdown, and Texas Southern could not answer at the end. This is an offensive game through and through. 35 first downs for the Bulldogs, 20 for Texas Southern. Like I said in my preview, neither defense is good, but that doesn't take away from these two offenses. These are two of the top 4 offenses in the conference. So this was definitely an offensive game. It wasn't that the defenses weren't good, but these offenses were that good that they just made the defenses even worse. 199 yards rushing for the Bulldogs, 4.5 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. 270 yards on the ground for Texas Southern, another great running night for them. 8.2 yards per carry and 3 touchdowns. 062 through the air for Alabama A&M, 33 of 52, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. 299 for Texas Southern through the air, 35 of 20, 13 of 25, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. It's amazing with the ball flying through the air that much. That there were no interceptions. There were 77 total passes thrown in this game and no interceptions. So this offense has carved up these defenses. It was amazing. This is another game I'm gonna have to watch to really watch this offensive explosion. 661 yards for the Bulldogs, 96 plays, almost 100 plays in a game. That's crazy. 6.9 yards per play, no fumbles. This game had no turnovers. That's amazing. A game that this high scoring, this back and forth, there was zero turnovers from either team. So that was a pretty clean effort on that part. 569 for the Texas Southern total offense, 9.8 yards per play, 58 plays, and they had 7 penalties for 45 yards. Alabama A&M 12 penalties for 86 yards, 46 yards per punt, and 39 for Texas Southern, 46.2 for Alabama A&M. Teams combined for 7 punts, even in a game like this. Time of possession, Alabama A&M 36 minutes and 23 seconds. Texas Southern 23 minutes and 30 seconds. 8 of 11 on third down for the Bulldogs. 5 of 11 for Texas Southern. 3 of 4 on fourth down for Alabama A&M. 0 for 1 for Texas Southern. 5 of 5 in the red zone for the Bulldogs. 3 of 4 for the Tigers. Only 2 sacks on the night. A&M did not register a sack. Texas Southern had 2 sacks. If you love offense, man, this is a game that you need to try to watch because this is an offensive explosion. Like I said, it was a quarterback duel. I expected that coming into this game. Akil Glass, obviously he's a senior. He put up really good numbers. 33 of 52, 462, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. He was sacked twice. Andrew Body handled himself well in this game, man. The kid's going to be a star. 13 of 25, 299, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, and no sacks. Body also had a good game on the ground with 8 carries for 54 yards and a touchdown. Ladarius Owens, another back-to-back big rushing effort, 12 carries, 175 yards, and a touchdown. Dominic Franklin, 9 carries, 38 yards, and a touchdown. Garrett Quarles, big night for him, 35 carries, 162 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And like I say, at A&M, they really only have one guy run the ball. So 35 carries for a guy Garrett Quarles' size is a lot. But he averaged 4.6 yards per carry and had a very good night on the ground. Ibrahim, 8 catches, 176 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He had an 81-yard touchdown. Odu Hilaire, 12 catches, 122 yards. Garrett Quarles threw in 4 catches for 80 yards. So he had 240 total yards of offense, all-purpose yards of offense. So a big night for him. D. Anderson, 4 catches, 42 yards. Henry Johnson, 2 catches, 38 yards. Jonathan Giles led Texas Southern with 5 catches for 96 yards and 2 touchdowns. Keelan Davis, 3 catches, 89 yards. Derek Morton, 1 catch, 38 yards and a touchdown. Jaron Johnson, 1 catch, 28 yards. Darius Owens, 2 catches, 26 yards. And King Blanton, 1 catch for 22 yards and a touchdown. Balls filling the air, man. It was crazy. Alabama A&M was led by Armani Holloway with 8 tackles, Amari Holloway with 7, Ezio Mume with 6 tackles, McGee with 5, Hopkins 5, Carter with 3 tackles for loss, Amari Holloway with 2, Irby, Middleton, and Hopkins each had 1 tackle for loss apiece, no sacks, no interceptions. Texas Southern was led by Cedric Williams with 9 tackles, Jacob Williams with 9 tackles, Marquise Walker with 8, Martinez with 7, DeMontario Anderson with 6, Isaiah Hamilton with 5, Tariq Cooper with 5, Tim Walton with 4, Jarvis Williams with 4, Malachi Mitchell with 4, Canary Simmons with 4, and Drew Robinson with 4. Tackles for loss, Cooper, Martinez, Jacob Williams, Hamilton, and Cedric Williams with 1. Isaiah Hamilton with 1. Cedric Williams, Tim Walton, Braden West, DeMontario Anderson, Michael Badajo, and Malik Tisdale each had a half a tackle for loss apiece. Sacks, Martinez, Walton, Anderson, and Badajo each had a half a sack apiece. This game, man, like I said, this is a game that if none of us have seen it, we need to go back and watch it. This was an offensive explosion. Definitely a nice quarterback duel, and a game that I really need to see. So I want to go back and check that out. The next game we're gonna cover is Valley taking on Alabama State. Valley was able to hit the scoreboard pretty early and pretty often. to the tune of 44 points. Alabama State had 31 points, and they fought. But this was probably Valley's best offensive night of the year. Connor Reagan got the start for Valley. He ran a 1-yard touchdown run to make it 7-0. Alabama State got a 5-yard pass from Nettles to McDuffie, made the score 7-7. Jacoby Thomas 8-yard run for Valley, 14-7. Aubrey Grace field goal for Alabama A&M Alabama State 14-10. Robert McMinn a 60-yard punt return for Alabama State gives the Hornets the lead 17-14. Fernandez got a field goal for Valley at the buzzer, at the halftime buzzer to make the score 17-all. At half, Ezra Gray 20-yard pass from Nettles. Hornets take the lead 24-17. Darius Clayton 83-yard catch and run from Easton, 24-24 tie. Valley gets a Ja'Cory Rankin 93-yard pass from Easton. Two huge Valley pass plays within the span of like 3 minutes to get a Delta Devil a 31-24 lead. Wallace Corker 11-yard touchdown reception from Nettles tied the score up at 31. Valley scores with 3:48 in the fourth quarter when Jacoby Thomas ran a 30-yard touchdown, 38-31. And then Thomas scored his third touchdown of the night to make the score 44-41. That score came with 1 minute and 10 seconds left in the game. 4-yard touchdown run. The extra point was blocked, and that made the score 44-31. 22 first downs for the Hornets, 15 for Valley. 174 yards for Alabama State, one of their better rushing nights on the season. 35 carries, 5 yards per carry, no touchdowns. 133 yards for Valley on 29 carries, 4.6 yards per carry, and 4 touchdowns. 208 through the air for Alabama State, 18 of 32, 3 touchdowns. Valley intercepted him 3 times. 363 through the air for Valley, obviously a season high. 15 of 34, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. 382 total offense for the Hornets, 67 plays, 5.7 yards per play, no fumbles. 2 penalties for 8 yards. Valley 496 through total offense, 63 plays, 7.9 yards per play. 1 fumble, they didn't lose it. And they had 4 penalties for 36 yards. So a very lightly penalized game, 6 penalties for a total of 48 yards. That's, a really good outing. Valley punted the ball 7 times for a 44-yard average. Alabama State 6 points for 36-yard average. Time of possession, Valley 27 minutes and 28 seconds. Alabama State 32 minutes and 32 seconds. Third downs 5 of 14 for the Hornets. Valley 4 of 14. Alabama State did not attempt a 4th down. Valley was 1 for 1. 4 for 4 in the red zone for both teams. Alabama State with 1 sack. Valley with 2. Individually, Ryan Nettles was 8 of 32 for Alabama State, 208, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and 1 sack. Nicholas Terry did not attempt a pass, but he was sacked once. Jelani Easton, 12 of 25 for Valley, 315, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, no sacks. Connor Reagan, 3 for 9 for 48 yards. He was sacked once, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Ja'Cory Merritt led Alabama State with 9 carries for 69 yards. Ezra Gray, 16 carries for 40 yards. Nettles, 5 carries for 33 yards. Jacoby Thomas led Valley with 8 carries for 88 yards and 3 touchdowns. Caleb Johnson, 15 carries for 38 yards, no touchdowns. Easton, 3 carries, 15 yards. Joshua Knight led Alabama State with 7 catches for 104 yards. McDuffie, 2 catches, 29 yards, and a touchdown. Keyron Jones, 4 catches, 21 yards. Ja'Cory Rankin, 5 catches, 152 yards, and a touchdown. Darius Clayton, 1 catch for 83 yards and a touchdown. Christian Clark led Alabama State with 6 tackles. Keenan Isaac, 5. Erskine Davis, 4. Nicholas Terry, 4. Jake Howard, 4. Nolan Johnson with 3, and Ron Prasad with 3. Tackles for loss, Clark, 2.5. Bundrich, 1.5. Davis, Terry, Johnson, Webster, each had 1 sack apiece. Howard with a half a sack, and they don't have a name for this guy. They just have number 91. He has a half a sack. If anybody knows who number 91 from Alabama State is, hit me in the comments. Want to give him his proper credit. Half a sack for Howard and a half a sack for Terry. Valley was led in tackles by Jaron Fox with 7, Brunson with 6, Keontae Daniels with 5, Markel Gladney with 5, Jeremiah Kane with 5, Jerry Garner with 4, and Bell with 4. Tackles for loss: Lewis 1.5, Reed 1.5, Gladney 1.5, Fox, Bell, and Garner each with 1. Martin with a half a tackle for loss. Sacks were by Garner with 1, and then Lewis and Gladney each had a half a sack. Interceptions were by Brunson, Gladney, and Daniels. Nice win for Valley, man. They rebounded from that Alabama A&M loss, and they played a really good offensive football game. This probably was the best game Valley played offensively all year. They were able to run and throw, and they hit some very explosive pass plays. Alabama State was game, but they just could not seal the deal. So they move on to their next game, which is Saturday. The next game we want to talk about is Arkansas Pine Bluff and Florida A&M. The Rattlers continue to roll. They dominated UAPB by a score of 37-7. So a really solid effort for them to continue their push to an at-large playoff berth. Since Jackson State has wrapped up the division, their division hopes are gone, but they still can push toward this consideration for at-large berth. They were ranked number 25 in the polls this week, so that helps. Solid game for FAMU. They scored first. She Reed, 16-yard pass from McKay. Kiara Crossley got Pine Bluff on the board with a 3-yard run. From then on, FAMU they scored the rest of the points. A halftime score was 27-7. As McKay ended up throwing for 4 first half touchdowns. Martinez got a field goal for FAMU in the third quarter, and then McKay threw his 5th touchdown of the game in the third quarter to make it score 37-7, and then FAMU kind of played out the rest of the game. 28 first downs for the Rattlers, 10 for Pine Bluff, 178 yards rushing for FAMU, 13 yards rushing for Pine Bluff. Man, they dominated this game. 55 yards, 42 yards lost for Pine Bluff. Just a solid defensive effort for FAMU. 0.6 yards per carry. They just did what they had to do. 163 yards passing for Pine Bluff. 14 of 26, no touchdowns, 3 interceptions. 392 through the air for FAMU. 24-35, no touchdowns, no interceptions, 5 touchdowns. 570 yards for the Rattlers, 7.3 yards per play, 2 fumbles, and they lost 1. They had 11 penalties for 112 yards. That's probably the one sore spot if you FAMU that you had to look at. Pine Bluff 176 yards offense, 3.7 yards per play. They fumbled once and lost it, so they had 4 turnovers on the night, and they had 4 penalties for 31 yards. FAMU punted 34 yard per punt average on 3 punts. Pine Bluff 41-yard average on 6 punts. Time of possession 39 minutes and 22 seconds for FAMU, 20 minutes and 38 seconds for Pine Bluff. FAMU 7 of 15 on third down, Pine Bluff 3 of 12. Rattlers 1 for 3 on fourth down, Pine Bluff 0 for 1. 5 of 7 in the red zone for the Rattlers, 1 of 1 for Pine Bluff. FAMU had 5 sacks on the night. The Golden Lions with 2. Rashawn McKay, 22 of 31, 383, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. He was sacked twice. Really good game for McKay. I know a lot of us come down hard on him, but this was a really good game for him. Pine Bluff defense is not good against the pass, but still, he played a good game. I think, we all are kind of hard on this kid, but he did what he had to do in this game. He took advantage of what he had in front of him, and he made plays. 5 touchdowns is a very solid effort for any quarterback, so salute to him for that. Cameron Sapp, 2 of 4 for 9 yards. Skylar Perry, 13 of 24, 158 yards and no touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He was sacked 5 times. Xavier Vaughn, 1 for 2 for 5 yards. Cameron Sapp led FAMU with 5 carries for 61 yards. Bishop Barnett, 14 carries for 58 yards. Kier Crossley, 8 carries for 10 yards to lead Pine Bluff and 1 touchdown. Not much to write home about in the run game. Xavier Smith led FAMU with 5 catches for 103 yards. Shareed, 6 catches, 2 touchdowns, 81 yards. Hawkins, 2 catches, 72 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Trey Harrell led Pine Bluff with 3 catches for 37 yards. Dalen Hill, 3 catches, 31 yards. Josh Wilkes, 3 catches, 31 yards. Lovey Jenkins led FAMU with 8 tackles. Marquise Bell with 8 tackles. B.J. Bowler with 5. John Chaney Jr. with 5. Isaiah Land with 3. Marterry Brown with 3. Derek Mayweather with 3 tackles for loss. Land 3, Mayweather 1.5, Smith 1, Stevens 1, Cooks half a tackle for loss, Marquise Bell half a tackle for loss, Fagan half a tackle for loss, Jenkins half tackle for loss. Land 3 sacks, Smith 1 sack, Stevens and Cooks each had a half a sack apiece. Interceptions were by Bowler with 2 and Morgan with 1. Forced fumble by Bell, fumble recovery by Fagan. Pine Bluff was led by Kobe Watts. That's a name I hadn't heard all year with 15. I don't know if he was injured. He just had not been playing well, but that's a name that was big in the spring, but just not really coming up in the fall. But he had 15 tackles. Kevian Johnson, 15 tackles. Caleb Knox with 8. Monroe Beard with 7. Stewart with 5. And Brooks with 5. Peppers with 5. And Gray with 5. Also Clark with 5. Tackles for loss. Monroe Beard, 1.5 tackles for loss. White 1, Clark 1, Akins 1, Brooks 1. Half a tackles for loss for Hamilton, Smith, Farmer, Peppers, and Younger. Sacks were by White and Clark. No interceptions. Forced fumbles were by Gray and Parikh, and the fumble recovery was by Gray. So again, this was just a by the book game for FAMU. Man, they came out, they dominated. This was probably their most complete road game that they played all year. So I've been questioning how they would play on the road, but this was a very solid effort over a Pine Bluff team that's not really that good, but they are still a game at times. But FAMU picked up a big win on the road and continue their push toward a hopeful at-large playoff berth, but I'm not really sold on that yet. So we'll see what happens. Bethune-Cookman gets their second victory of the season, their second victory in a row over Grambling, who drops their second game in a row, and now they are in pretty bad shape. Bethune-Cookman won this game 31-14. They led this game 24-7 at the half. Jimmy Robinson had a big first half with 3 touchdowns for Bethune-Cookman. They got a field goal also. Grambling got a touchdown from John Paul Pierce to Darrell James from 14 yards out that made the score 17-7 before Jimmy Robinson got his third touchdown to make it 24-7. Tony Forrest, 17-yard pass from Pierce, put Grambling down 24-14, and then in the fourth quarter with 5 minutes and 46 seconds to go, Wilson got a 30-yard run for Bethune-Cookman to make the score 31-14. 17 first downs for the Wildcats, 13 for the Tigers. 177 yards rushing for BCU, 46 carries, 3.8 yards per carry, and 4 touchdowns. Really solid effort for them on the night. 84 yards rushing for Grambling, 33 carries, 2.5 yards per carry, no touchdowns. 111 yards passing for Bethune-Cookman, 8 of 21, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Grambling 102 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 12 of 28. Total offense, 288 yards for Bethune-Cookman, 67 plays, 4.3 yards per play. They fumbled 5 times and lost 2. They had 7 penalties for 65 yards, 186 yards of offense for Grambling total, 61 plays, 3.0 yards per play, 3 fumbles, and they lost 2. Sloppy game, man. This is kind of the game that you expect from two teams whose seasons are kind of over. Grambling 3 penalties for 46 yards. Both teams punted 9 times. Bethune-Cookman 41-yard average. Grambling 35. Time of possession 34 minutes and 6 seconds for the Wildcats. 25 minutes and 51 seconds for Grambling. 6 of 15 on third down for Bethune-Cookman. No fourth down attempts. Grambling 3 of 14 on third down. 2 for 2 on fourth down. 4 of 4 in the red zone for Bethune-Cookman. 2 for 2 for Grambling. 4 sacks for Bethune-Cookman. 3 for Grambling. Individually, Devin Black 8 of 21 for Bethune-Cookman. 111 yards. No touchdowns, no interceptions. 3 sacks. Pierce 12 of 28 for Grambling. 102 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He was sacked 4 times. Jimmy Robinson led Bethune-Cookman with 15 carries for 98 yards and 3 touchdowns. Bird, 14 carries, 59 yards. Wilson, 3 carries, 38 yards and a touchdown. C.J. Russell led Grambling with 16 carries for 61 yards. Breton, 8 carries for 22 yards. Overton led Bethune-Cookman with 1 catch for 38 yards. Averett, 3 catches for 34 yards. C.J. Russell led Grambling with 3 catches for 30 yards. Callaway, 1 catch, 17 yards. Forrest, 1 catch, 17 yards and a touchdown. Ross, 2 catches, 15 yards. And with James, 1 catch for 14 yards and a touchdown. Ontario Johnson led Bethune-Cookman with 9 tackles. Sutherland, 6. Bowman, 4. Dees, 4. Reeves, 4. McKenzie, 4. And Jordan Howell with 4. Johnson and Hampton each had 2 tackles for loss. Sutherland, a tackle and a half for loss. Miller, Dees each had 1 tackle for loss apiece. Bowman, Reeves, and Jordan Howell, half a tackle for loss apiece. Sacks, Miller, Sutherland, and Hampton with 1. Bowman and Reeves with each a half a sack apiece. Forced fumbles were by Miller, Sutherland, and Ratliff. Recoveries by Ratliff and Sutherland. Interception was by Sutherland. Grambling was led by Powell with 10 tackles. Richardson with 6. Loge with 5. Matthews with 5. Reed and Anderson with 4. Tackles for loss, Powell 2.5. 1.5 for Richardson and 1.5 for Paul. Carter, Hart, and Hardy each had 1 tackle for loss apiece. Mitchell, Matthews, and Dodson with a half a tackle for loss apiece. Sacks, Richardson and Powell with 1. Richardson with 1.5, Powell 1, and Dodson a half a tackle for loss. No interceptions. Forced fumbles were by Walker and Lane. And Lewis and Walker. Lewis and Reed had a fumble recovery. And that's gonna do it for this week, man. This was the game that probably had the least interest, but Bethune-Cookman picked up their 2nd win in a row. Quick look at the week 12 schedule. Florida A&M and Bethune-Cookman Florida Classic. That's it says to be announced this time, but I'll find it out. ESPN Plus broadcast, so you can check that out. Prairie View is at Texas A&M. 11 o'clock kickoff. Pine Bluff is at Alabama A&M. 1 o'clock kickoff. Alcorn and Jackson. Hooking up in Jackson. I think they call this the Pepsi Challenge now. I still call it Soul Bowl. 1 o'clock kickoff. Texas Southern and Alabama State hook up in Montgomery, and that's a 2 o'clock kickoff. Those last 2 games are on ESPN Plus. So that's gonna do it for me. I'll be back on Wednesday with my Week 12 preview, live SWAC Smoke on Thursday, and Week 12 recap on Sunday. So feel free to join me next week, man. We got 2 more weeks of football regular season, then a conference championship Celebration Bowl. South Carolina State will be the MEAC opponent in the Celebration Bowl. Norfolk State lost last night, which clinches the conference for South Carolina State. So Bulldogs are awaiting their opponent in Atlanta. So we'll see who the SWAC sends. And that's going to do it. If you check out the screen now, there should be some links that you can click on, 2 videos, my recent video and 1 video probably suggested for you. And then there's also a subscription link to check. If you haven't subscribed, man, go ahead and hit that and subscribe to the channel. It would be much appreciated. With all that being said, I'm your tour guide, C. Wells, and I'm signing out. And y'all enjoy y'all Sunday.